as we close out the 90s in Scarymania, I think it's time to give a salute to an overlooked superhero gem. Because before there was Endgame, before there was Infinity War, before there was Iron Man, and before there was even Spider-Man, there was Blade. It's important to note that in the late 90s, comic book movies were not a thing. They were basically unpersoned in 1997, thanks to Ice Puns the Musical and bad graphics. Just really bad graphics. So Stephen Norrington, David S. Goyer, to a certain extent, and Wesley Snipes all collectively rolled up their sleeves and said, "Let me show you how it's done." This movie tells the story of Blade, played by Wesley Snipes. He is a Daywalker, meaning that he has all of the properties of a vampire. However, his mother was human, which means that he can walk in the daylight and act like a normal human. So it's the best of both worlds. Not only is he a Daywalker, but he is also a vampire hunter. And he stumbles upon the biggest job that he's ever had when a vampire named Deacon Frost, played by Stephen Dorff, declares war on humankind. And, well, Blade just doesn't have time for that. Given the slew of superhero-related content that we've gotten over the past number of years, especially in the 2010s, the more I watch it, the more I realize that Blade was kind of ahead of its time. This isn't necessarily a horror movie, though it has some pretty unnerving moments. However, this movie walked so that other superhero movies could run. With all due respect to Mahershala Ali, he will make a brilliant Blade. I have a good feeling about that. But Wesley Snipes is Blade. It's like Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. They got the casting right on the first shot. Blade can kick a ton of ass, he's got all the one-liners, but there are actually some scenes where he actually shows some emotion, especially when it revolves around his mom. I like that. I like the spirit of that. He had a nice dynamic with especially Whistler, played by Chris Christopherson. I like the weird little dynamic they had, and it also helps that I'm a Chris Christopherson fan, so good casting choice there. Stephen Dorff is a bit of a weird flex for the villain of the movie. I don't know, it's kind of like casting Wes Bentley as Blackheart or Darkheart in the Ghost Rider movie. It kind of fails on the eyeball test alone. But Dorff has some menacing lines and did his job admirably enough. In other ways, this movie does show a bit of its age. This movie was released in 1998, so there's definitely some room for improvement. However, there's some pretty bad CG here. And again, this is the late 90s, so you gotta take what you can get. However, it's still not great. But at the end of the day, Blade is just a blast to watch. I always try and watch it at least once a year. It's just a lot of fun. It's essentially Wesley Snipes finding all the vampires and saying, "Your ass is mine," and just absolutely following through with that promise. Even though he says very weird lines like, "Some MFers always want to ice skate uphill," which every time I hear that, it's like the X-Files theme kicks on. It's like, what were you thinking with that? If you've never seen Blade or haven't seen it in a while, do check it out. It is better than you remember. And as we leave the 20th century, it's time to enter the 2000s and in the closing stretch of Scarymania.